While some people chase parties and crowds, others find peace in silence. While the world rushes outside, they stay still, calm, grounded, at home. But who are these people who love staying at home? Are they introverts? Loners? Or maybe they've simply discovered a different kind of happiness? Today, we dive deep into the psychology of people who love staying at home and why their world, behind closed doors, might be more alive than we think. Imagine waking up to a world that already feels too loud. The city hums outside your window. Notifications flash across your screen before you even open your eyes. And somewhere out there, life is demanding that you hurry. Yet inside your home, there is stillness. The air is softer. The light is gentler. The space feels like it belongs entirely to you. You pour a cup of coffee, sit in your favorite chair, and feel something shift inside. A quiet sense of peace. A pause between the outside world and your inner one. That moment, so simple and familiar, carries more psychological meaning than it seems. It is not just comfort, it is control. For many people who love staying at home, the attachment to comfort is not about laziness, fear, or avoidance of the world. It's about balance. It's about creating an environment where the unpredictable noise of life fades into the background, and you are reminded that there are still things you can shape with your own hands. When the world outside feels uncertain, your home becomes the one space where your decisions matter. How you arrange the furniture, what colors surround you, what scents fill the air. Every small choice whispers reassurance. You're safe. You're in charge here. Psychologists often talk about the human need for stability, the subtle but powerful desire to feel grounded. Our ancestors found it in tribes, rituals, and faith. Today, we build it out of candles, playlists, warm lighting, and routines. The home is our modern-day ritual, a structure that helps us cope with the shapelessness of the world beyond the door. When someone chooses to stay home rather than go out, they are often choosing structure over chaos, familiarity over surprise. That choice can be deeply healing. It gives the brain a break from the constant state of alertness that modern life demands. There's something symbolic about closing your door at the end of the day. The sound of the latch sliding into place is more than just mechanical. It's emotional. It's a quiet declaration. For now, the world can wait. Inside, you are free to take off the social mask you wear outside. You don't have to impress, explain, or perform. You can simply exist. And that simple existence, free from expectation, is one of the most restorative psychological experiences available to a human being. People who love staying at home often develop deep emotional connections to the objects and rituals around them. A certain blanket might remind them of warmth and childhood. A certain smell might trigger calmness. Even the way sunlight falls across the same corner of the room can become a source of grounding. This isn't sentimentality, it's neuroscience. The human brain thrives on patterns it can predict. Every familiar sensory cue, the creak of a floorboard, the smell of morning coffee, the rhythm of quiet music, signals safety to the nervous system. When life outside feels overwhelming, these small details become a refuge. Some might interpret this behavior as avoidance, but it's closer to self-preservation. The home allows us to regulate our own energy, to decompress after constant stimulation. Modern life rarely gives us silence. We are surrounded by screens, deadlines, opinions, noise, all demanding a piece of our attention. At home, attention becomes ours again. We can focus inward, not outward. In that inward focus, people rediscover their inner rhythm, how they like to move through a day when no one is watching, how they actually feel when the world stops asking them to be something else. Comfort, then, is not a weakness. It is a form of quiet rebellion. It says, I don't need to match the speed of the world to have value. To love your home is to value peace over performance, quality over quantity, depth over noise. There's something almost meditative in the way homebodies engage with their environment, adjusting the lighting, cleaning the kitchen, rearranging a shelf until it feels just right. These rituals are acts of grounding, small gestures of order that push back against the disorder outside. Interestingly, studies in environmental psychology have found that people who take active care of their living space, who decorate intentionally, maintain cleanliness, or create cozy corners, often experience lower stress levels and higher emotional stability. The act of organizing space gives a mirrored sense of organizing one's mind. When you fold a blanket or water a plant, you're sending a message to yourself. The world might be unpredictable, but this small piece of it is under your care. That message matters. It helps restore a sense of agency in an age where much feels out of our hands. Think of how a storm sounds when you're inside. The wind howls, rain hits the glass, but you feel safe under the soft glow of a lamp. There's a primal comfort in that separation, the wildness of the outside contrasted with the warmth within. Psychologically, that reinforces the idea that you have built your own sanctuary. It's not about fear of the world, it's about appreciation of boundaries. The home becomes both metaphor and shield, a space where your inner life can thrive without interruption. What's fascinating is that this sense of control doesn't need to be large or grand. Sometimes it's just the control of a single moment, choosing to sit quietly instead of scrolling, choosing to cook instead of ordering in, choosing to read instead of running from silence. Each of these small acts reinforces self-direction, the idea that you are not just reacting to the world, you are designing your experience within it. And that design, in its intimacy and subtlety, is an art form. Of course, not everyone understands this mindset. In a culture that glorifies busyness, productivity, and constant social engagement, the idea of just staying home can seem lazy or antisocial. But in reality, it often reflects emotional intelligence. People who love staying at home have learned to listen to their inner signals. When the body and mind say enough, they listen. They retreat not to hide, but to heal. They understand that rest is not the opposite of growth, it's part of it. The home becomes a cocoon, not a prison, but a place of transformation. The truth is, comfort and control are deeply connected. Control without comfort becomes rigidity. Comfort without control becomes stagnation. But when the two meet, they create harmony, a sense of peaceful authority over one's own life. That's what home offers. It's not about escaping the world forever. It's about returning to it refreshed, centered, and more whole. The people who find joy in staying at home have simply discovered a rhythm that many others overlook, a rhythm of conscious presence, of deliberate peace. So the next time someone calls you a homebody, smile a little, because what they might not realize is that staying home isn't about hiding from life. It's about mastering it on your own terms. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your time, and your identity, choosing to stay home is a radical act of self-ownership. It's saying, here in this space, I decide what matters. I decide what energy enters. I decide how I feel. And that quiet, steady control is one of the purest forms of freedom there is.
There is a common misunderstanding about people who prefer to be alone. Society often labels them as shy, antisocial, or distant, as if solitude were a symptom of something that needs to be fixed. But for many, solitude is not an absence of connection. It is a different kind of presence. It is the art of existing with oneself fully, without distraction or pretense. For introverts, this space of quiet is not emptiness, it is energy. Imagine a crowded room, voices overlapping, laughter echoing, conversations colliding in a haze of sound. For some people, that noise is fuel. They draw life from it. They feel alive in the pulse of others. But for an introvert, that same room can feel like being caught in a current too strong to swim against. Every word, every glance, every expectation is another wave pulling them away from their center. It's not that they dislike people, it's that constant social contact drains them faster than they can recharge. And so, when the night ends and they return home, silence becomes medicine. Psychologically, introversion is not a defect. It is a temperament, a wiring of the nervous system that prioritizes depth over breadth, focus over noise. While extroverts are often energized by external stimuli, introverts gain energy through reflection and inner clarity. Their minds are constantly active, analyzing, feeling, imagining, so external stimulation can quickly overwhelm them. What they crave is not isolation, but space to think and breathe. When they withdraw into solitude, they are not escaping the world, they are returning to equilibrium. There's a profound beauty in this inward journey. Alone, the introvert's mind begins to bloom. Ideas that were drowned out by noise rise to the surface. Creativity flourishes in the absence of interruption. In solitude, they listen, not to the world outside, but to the quiet voice within that so often goes unheard. That voice tells them who they are, what they value, and what they need to feel whole. This is why solitude feels less like loneliness and more like home. Loneliness is being disconnected from others. Solitude is being connected to yourself. One wounds, the other heals. Modern culture often confuses the two because it measures worth by visibility, by how often you're seen, how social you appear, how connected your life looks from the outside. But introverts operate on a different frequency. Their connections are not many, but deep. Their energy flows inward first, then outward in deliberate, meaningful ways. Think of solitude as the charging dock for the introverted soul. Every quiet evening spent reading, every slow morning with coffee and thoughts, every walk taken alone, these are not empty hours. They are moments of recovery, refilling, reconnection. The nervous system, constantly strained by noise and expectation, finds peace in these stretches of stillness. The mind organizes, the emotions settle, and something inside says, "This is enough." Science supports this deeply human truth. Research shows that introverts experience higher levels of brain activity in areas responsible for reflection and internal processing. Their dopamine systems respond differently. Where extroverts seek external stimulation for reward, introverts find pleasure in quiet mental exploration. It's not that they don't enjoy company, they simply need less of it to feel balanced. After spending time in a crowd, they retreat not because they dislike people, but because they need to rebuild their internal energy reserves. Imagine solitude as the sunlight filtered through leaves, gentle, golden, nourishing without burning. In that filtered light, the introvert grows. They notice the details others miss, the way air moves through a room, the soft rhythm of breathing, the sound of their own thoughts unfolding. They are present in ways that constant motion does not allow. The outside world measures productivity in action, but introverts understand that stillness can be just as productive. A different kind of work, invisible yet essential. In solitude, they also find emotional honesty. When you are alone, there's no one to perform for, no social script to follow. The masks fall away, and what's left is truth, sometimes uncomfortable, but always real. For many introverts, these moments of raw self-awareness are both grounding and transformative. They process feelings that others might run from. They examine memories, fears, and desires with quiet courage. Solitude becomes a mirror, and though it sometimes reflects pain, it also reveals wisdom. This ability to turn inward creates a kind of emotional depth that can be misunderstood. To an outsider, The introvert's silence might seem like withdrawal or disinterest, but inside, there's a rich landscape of thought and feeling. Conversations may be fewer, but each one carries weight. Friendships may be limited, but they are loyal, sincere, and enduring. The introvert is not detached, they are simply selective, conserving energy for what truly matters. There's also a quiet resilience in this way of living. To be comfortable alone is to be free from dependency on constant validation. It means you can find peace even when the world goes silent. When others panic at the thought of spending a weekend without plans, the introvert feels relief. They understand that solitude is not a void to be filled, but a garden to be tended. And like any garden, it flourishes when nurtured with care and intention. Of course, solitude has its challenges. It can tip into loneliness if not balanced with genuine connection. Even introverts need others, they just need them differently. They crave depth, not quantity, authenticity, not attention. A single meaningful conversation can recharge them more than a room full of acquaintances. The people who truly understand them know that their distance is not rejection, it's respect for their own boundaries. To love an introvert is to understand that silence is not absence, and space is not separation. It's an invitation to meet them where they feel most alive, in sincerity, in stillness, in shared quiet. The energy they draw from solitude doesn't isolate them, it strengthens them, making their presence more grounded and genuine when they do choose to engage with the world. In the larger picture, introversion and solitude remind us of something our fast-paced culture often forgets, that not all growth happens in motion. Some of it happens in pause, in listening, in being. The modern world glorifies the visible, the noise, the crowd, the constant connection. But there's another kind of strength, the kind that blooms unseen. It's the strength of those who can sit with their own thoughts and not be afraid. The ones who can be alone without feeling lonely, who can stand still and still feel alive.
Something profound is happening in the world right now. Slowly, quietly, beneath the surface of constant noise, people are rediscovering the value of being alone. What once was seen as isolation is being redefined as intention. What once sounded like retreat is beginning to look like strength. We are entering a new era, a new culture of solitude. For generations, society has glorified togetherness. Productivity was measured in meetings, popularity in followers, happiness in social proof. The more connected you were, the more alive you seemed. But as the world became noisier, faster, more demanding, something began to shift. People started to crave silence, not as an escape, but as a form of healing. They began to understand that solitude isn't the opposite of connection, it's the foundation of it. The rise of remote work, digital overload, and social burnout has forced many to confront a simple truth. We've been taught how to communicate, but not how to be alone. We scroll endlessly through curated lives, surrounded by virtual noise, and yet the deeper connection, the one with ourselves, often gets lost. But solitude brings that back. It is becoming, in a way, the new luxury. Time, space, and peace without interruption. In this new culture, staying home is no longer a sign of withdrawal. It's a conscious choice to design life differently. People create small rituals to bring serenity. Morning coffee without screens, evening walks without music, hours spent reading, painting, or just sitting in thought. There's no audience, no applause, no need to perform. It's an intimate dialogue between you and your inner self. And from that quietness, something powerful begins to grow: clarity. Psychologists describe this shift as intentional solitude, the practice of spending time alone, not out of loneliness, but out of self-awareness. It's about listening to your own mind before the world tells you what to think. It's about reconnecting with the rhythm of your own breath after years of running at someone else's pace. People are learning that peace doesn't come from adding more noise, more activity, more people, but from subtracting what doesn't serve them. In this light, solitude becomes an act of rebellion. It pushes back against a culture that measures worth by visibility. When you choose to be alone, you choose authenticity over performance. You stop chasing validation and start seeking understanding. And that quiet defiance, that refusal to be consumed by the crowd, is a deeply modern kind of courage. Technology, ironically, has both caused and accelerated this transformation. We live in a world of constant exposure, every thought shareable, every emotion postable. Yet many are beginning to resist this digital transparency. They're logging off, deleting apps, and reclaiming their mental privacy, not because they hate connection, but because they want to make it sacred again. They want their attention to be something they give consciously, not something constantly stolen. Solitude, in this sense, becomes digital detox, not just from screens, but from the performative weight of modern life. Artists, thinkers, and creators have always known this truth. Throughout history, solitude has been the birthplace of creativity. Van Gogh's fields, Thoreau's cabin, Woolf's a room of one's own, all were sanctuaries of thought. But now this mindset is spreading beyond art. Ordinary people are beginning to realize that to think clearly, to feel deeply, and to live intentionally, they too need space. The home, once a backdrop, becomes a canvas, a place not just to rest, but to build meaning. In this new culture of solitude, being alone no longer equals being lonely. People are learning to enjoy their own company, to fill silence with reflection instead of fear. They're starting to treat solitude as nourishment, something that strengthens rather than isolates. The idea that you must always be surrounded by others to be happy is quietly fading. Instead, happiness is being redefined as contentment, a steady peace within, not a constant rush without. There's also a spiritual element in this transformation. Solitude has always been a path to awareness, the stillness in which you meet yourself fully. When the noise fades, you begin to hear the subtle voice inside, the one that whispers truth. For many, this rediscovery feels sacred. Meditation, journaling, slow living, minimalism, all these movements are different expressions of the same idea. Life becomes richer when you strip it back to its essence. And so, a generation that grew up online is now learning the value of being offline. They're designing homes that feel like sanctuaries, not stages. They're prioritizing rest over hustle, reflection over reaction. The world outside still races, but inside there's calm, deliberate, grounded, human. This isn't about rejecting society. It's about redefining balance within it. The new culture of solitude doesn't say, be alone forever. It says, know how to return to yourself. Because when you do, every interaction becomes more meaningful. When you're comfortable in your own silence, you no longer fear the silence of others. When you're no longer running from stillness, you can meet the world from a place of strength, not exhaustion. We often talk about self-love, but true self-love requires solitude. You cannot love what you do not know, and you cannot know yourself if you never meet yourself in silence. Solitude offers that meeting, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes liberating, always real. It's where you stop performing and start being, where you stop reaching outward and begin to grow inward. In that sense, solitude is not just peace, it's truth. The most remarkable thing about this cultural shift is how ordinary it looks. It's not loud or flashy. It happens in the smallest moments. Someone choosing to read instead of scroll, to walk instead of drive, to sit in quiet instead of filling space with talk. It's the collective exhale of people realizing they don't need to constantly prove their existence, that simply being here, now, in this moment, is enough. And maybe that's what the future looks like. A society that finally values stillness as much as action, introspection as much as expression. A world where the most revolutionary thing you can do is slow down, unplug, and listen. Where home is not just a place, but a state of mind, a sanctuary built from attention, boundaries, and care. The new culture of solitude isn't about walls or distance, it's about presence. It's about creating a life that feels whole, even when it's quiet. It's about learning that peace is not something you chase, it's something you allow. So when you close the door at night and the world outside falls silent, know this: you are not missing out. You are tuning in. You are part of a quiet revolution, one that values depth over display, calm over chaos, authenticity over appearance. The culture of solitude is not isolation, it's evolution. It's humanity remembering how to be with itself again.